Andrew, I simply open it to you. Guide us through what Jack Smith filed today, what you see as the highlights.
It's really hard to do highlights because, I mean, this is bombshell after bombshell after bombshell.
I actually literally highlighted every single page. It's just all yellow.
Exactly. I mean, it's the kind of thing as you read it. You know, you and I are old enough to remember Watergate. I mean, this is Watergate over and over again. The idea that this is a cancer on the presidency, and with no disrespect at all to the January 6th committee that did an incredible job. What they couldn't get, given that they have far fewer tools than criminal prosecutors, as Tim knows very well, is so much direct evidence where it's conversations with Donald Trump over and over again. And in addition to what you just went through, just so many people telling him there was no fraud that made any difference here. Mike Pence is telling that. His campaign is telling that. Lawyers are telling that over and over again. It is useful to remember the reason this is public is because Judge Chutkan denied Donald Trump's motion that he was making opposing this ever being anything that we could see. He continued to make motions saying no one should ever see this. It was rejected in a written decision by Judge Chutkan today. And she then released this. So that is why we have it over his opposition. And now that we can see it, we know for damn well why it is that he didn't want anyone to see this, in the same way that Richard Nixon didn't want anyone to see those tapes.
Tim Heaphy, you tried to get the vice president's testimony at the January 6th committee. He refused to testify to your committee, unlike our next guest tonight coming up, Kelsey Hutchinson. As you read the vice president's testimony in here, as it is relayed by Jack Smith, and it's not all of it. It's just the amount that he thought he needed to lay in the essence of the crimes here. The vice president on the witness stand would certainly be saying a lot more than what we see in here. But what was it like for you to read the vice president's story that you were trying to get and couldn't get at the January 6th committee?
Yeah, Lawrence, it is entirely consistent with the story that we told, but with just much greater clarity and greater detail. As Andrew said, we had a lot of ceilings that we would bump into where witnesses would say, I'm not going to come because I have an executive privilege, or I'm going to come, but I'm going to stop short of testifying to you, members of Congress, my direct communications with the president. The special counsel has availed himself wisely of the grand jury proceedings where he can go right upstairs to the chief judge and adjudicate whether or not a privilege claim is or is not valid. And he's gotten Mike Pence to come, and not just to come, but to testify about direct communications with the president. People like Eric Hirschman, Pat Cipollone, this brief is filled with evidence about what those lawyers and others directly conveyed to their boss, the former president, right? We had a lot of circumstantial evidence of what the president knew, some direct, but a lot of circumstantial. Jack Smith has done a good job filling in those gaps. And it just reads like a much more vibrant and detailed story, but essentially consistent with the broad scheme, intentional scheme that the Select Committee laid out.
Andrew, what I was struck by is how active the defendant is in this story. As it's unfolded before, Donald Trump is in it, but it wasn't clear to me that he was picking up the phone himself and calling this person in Arizona. And we all know about the famous call in Georgia to the Secretary of State, but there were a lot more calls. There were a lot more very deliberate actions by the defendant to advance what Jack Smith calls his conspiracy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is the principal player. And in many ways, the January 6th committee report, because they had this gap, was a little bit like Hamlet without Hamlet. And here he is not a sort of Hamlet-like figure. He is very active. He is sitting there watching what he thinks is his, the last gasp of his administration, and he's doing everything he can, in spite of the fact that he is being told over and over again that you do not have the facts and you do not have the law. Both of those are against him, and he is still doing something. It is such an incredible read in terms of criminality from the heart of the White House, in the Oval Office, sort of over and over again. And on the big legal issue, which Lawrence Tribe certainly going to be able to address, it shows that this was being done as a candidate in terms of the issue that the Supreme Court said, which is that presidents are immune when acting as presidents. This picture paints over and over again that this is something that he was doing. And I think it is totally right to connect this to what we saw just yesterday, where you have two people running for vice president, where the same denial that is wrong on the facts, wrong on the law, is still to this day being repeated to the American public.
Tim, there's a moment in there where in the Trump-Pence dialogue with quotation marks. So all of these lines come from Mike Pence. And there's a moment where when Donald Trump's trying to insist that he join this conspiracy to just use a power he doesn't have as vice president to throw out electors. And he says, I don't have that power. He says, I don't have that power. That Donald Trump says to him, you are too honest. You're too honest. Now, the structure of that, what that means in English is that you're telling the truth. That's what honest means. You're saying you don't have this power, but you're being too honest in admitting that you don't have this power, because that's what's preventing you from joining our criminal conspiracy. And so when a prosecutor is looking for, what does this defendant think? And let's assume this defendant is not going to get on the witness stand. You have a witness here, Mike Pence, telling you exactly what he thinks. He thinks, honestly, you have absolutely no right to do what I'm telling you to do.
Right. Look, the brief is written directly to address the central thing that Jack Smith has to prove, which is an intent to disrupt the joint session, right? Purposeful conduct by the defendant, the former president, intending to disrupt that joint session and prevent the transfer of power. So his words, Lawrence, his words directly to Mike Pence are the best evidence of his intent. And you're exactly right. When he says you're being too honest, that is an implicit admission that what he's asking for is dishonest. Right? That's crucial evidence of intent. The other thing that's really interesting to me in the Pence dialogues that are in this pleading is that he prefaces, or he sort of predicts, what he's going to do when Pence refuses his persuasion, and that's launch the mob. He says, I'm going to have to say, Mike, that you've disappointed me. I'm going to have to out you to the masses. Right? He's predicting that his ultimate leverage is that angry mob. That's what prompts Mark Short to call the Secret Service. Trump's basically telling Mike Pence what he's going to do. I'm going to get everybody mad at you tomorrow because you're too honest. Really, really damning evidence of his intent to disrupt that joint session and prevent the transfer of power.